Top brass comes out in front of Congress to testify over the withdrawal of Afghanistan, plus General Milley gets a bonus as he tries to defend his call with China over President Trump. So we'll talk just a bit about both of those. In other news, Jerome Powell also gets up in front of the Senate Banking Committee to go and testify because they don't know what it is that he's going to do to try and curb inflation. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema both meet with Biden because he is desperate to try to get them on board for the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, in spite of the fact that I think that the budget reconciliation is going to go for the debt ceiling. So we will talk just a bit about what's going on with that. And Harvard moves classes online because apparently they're getting another big rise in COVID-19 cases. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is going to be a video-heavy episode. That much I can tell you right off the bat. I got a lot of video from this congressional testimony. Now, I want to point something out with this, because I do try to stay away from the soap opera of what's going on in D.C. and which world leader is pissed at which world leader and which top brass is pissed at which top brass and all that kind of stuff. I try to stay away from that, honestly. I would rather talk about, the budget, the reconciliation, how that's going to hit your pocket. And, I've been bragging about that. But I look at this, and one of the things that I look at is the fact that war has become a dirty word in the mouths of the GOP, and even still a lot of progressives think it's a dirty word. And I'd like to think that seeing these people come up and testify again, in front of Congress like this, getting drug out like this, is just going to further the idea that war is a dirty word. Hopefully it'll curb some of the warring in the future. I don't believe that's going to happen, but a guy can dream. So that's what I want to see out of this here. That's why we're covering this. Otherwise, I would have skipped right over this, because this is just more of the DC soap opera of we're dragging everybody we don't like in front of Congress. And I mean that's not kitchen table issues for you, except for the fact that these are the people who send your sons and daughters over to war when they choose that they want to take a military career and get those sweet government benefits. So that's, that's what we need to talk about here. That's why we're going to be doing this up at the top of the show. Not necessarily to watch the reality show, not necessarily to watch The Federal Apprentice. All right, but before we get started, first thing is first, because I notice I get some comments. I see some people are now watching the Instagram stream, which is abbreviated, by the way. You only get, I think, 40 minutes of the Instagram stream. So if you would like to see the full show, plus see the news stories behind me, the videos that we're going to talk about, the videos that we're going to watch, head on over. Mostly by the time the comments come in, the video should be processed. Tap the link in the description. In my Instagram description, tap the link there. That'll go to my YouTube channel. You can watch the full video. It's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours long. All the news stories behind me. Jeez, I can't talk this morning. The news stories are all behind me. Plus, we can watch the video. I can't transmit the video to Instagram. We're going to watch a lot of interviews here. So go and check that out. Hit the subscribe button. It's a great time. I love to see more of you guys in here. And you can chat in the live chat with everybody else who's chatting here, because, this is a full news show. The Instagram thing, it's another way to get the message out, but it's really an alerting machine. Another way to tell people that, hey, I'm live. So go and check that out. We're live at the same time every morning, so go and check that out. It'll be an awesome time. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, let's get into selling of the wares here. Starting with turnsofpagesproductions.com. Go and check that out. And once we get up and launched, and I just talked to the other guy who's in the web development firm that I think we're going to be, well, I know we're going to be working with because I've already had services from them and I'm waiting to pay them money at this point. Oh, is the Instagram feed going to cut off already? Oh no, just the video. Oh good, my phone's going to do fucked up crap off of this. Anyway, we're already working with them. I've talked to the owner of the firm, so he can send me an invoice. We'll probably be talking after work today, so I will let him know on that. But yeah, definitely go and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com, where you will be able to find great shows such as The Porch Boys, The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, and the Freckles and Brit Show. Hiccups, burps, can't talk, tripping over my words. This is going to be a great show, you guys. Go over there, check that out. It's going to be a great time. We'll have some great writers. We'll have some great news up there. John is going to be our editor-in-chief, which I'm fairly excited about. So, yeah, definitely go and check all that out. It's going to be, it's going to be an awesome time for that. And if you want to help us get up off the ground, you can go check out the GoFundMe, which I will put the link in the chat for you guys here. If you want to go throw a couple bucks at that, that'd be awesome. We're already a fifth of the way there. $400 raised of $2,000 of a goal. So, fairly excited for that. Fairly excited to see where this could go, and the fact that we're being beholden because we're built by the fans too. I think that's going to be awesome as well. Let's go ahead and get that in there for you. Oh, that's right. I can't do a right click in the chat program that I have. So you guys can go and check that out. That's going to be an awesome time. And with that, let's get into your news and your finance. Allergy season. Why would you do this to me? All right, starting with the Dow. The Dow took another big hit yesterday, down to 34,299.99, erasing all the gains we've seen over the last couple days here. So 34,299.99, that is down 569.38 points, or a little over 1.5% drop yesterday. And given the fact that we don't know what's going to happen with Afghanistan, we don't know what's going to happen with the government shutdown, and we don't know what's going to happen with the inflation, and that's partially why we had Mr. Powell back into Congress. Wow, why can't I talk this morning? That's going to be dropping even further, I think, today. So we will continue to watch that and see where that goes. Looking in at your Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin also took a mild drop yesterday, back down to $41,661 and 90 US cents. It is back on sale. If you want to pick some of it up while it's back on sale, if you want to donate to me while it's back on sale, I will look into getting a Bitcoin wallet for that because I'm fairly excited for that. Even though I think Bitcoin kind of glows, so I might actually turn around and turn that into like Cardano or Ethereum or something, but that's not official financial advice, and it is on sale right now, so definitely go and look into that if you're interested in crypto. Your steel scrap, your scrap in general, aluminum continues to be on the rise. Steel is on the drop, and copper is on the drop, looking at your individuals. Bare copper wire is dropping still, but number 2 tubing is back up. BX steel is up, but it looks like most of your other steel plays are down. Brass is down. And all of your aluminum plays are down, except for aluminum rims, which continue to rise to a level that holds all of this back up. So if you're wanting some metal, I would possibly take some of that into the recycling center now as it's on the drop, because you kind of want to hold it while it's on the rise. Buy low, sell high. So that's what we're seeing coming out of that. All right, let's see what CNN Business has to say. Markets now. Dow drops more than 550 points as inflation concerns rattle investors. From Anakin Tape. And for whatever reason, this gets introduced with a Ford Transit van. Not sure why, but CNN thought it was cool, apparently. The U.S. stock market took it on the chin again on Tuesday, plummeting on worries about sustained high inflation that pushed bond yields higher. The debt ceiling debate raging in Washington didn't help market sentiment either. The Dow dropped some 600 points at its low point and finished the day down 569 points, or 1.6%. The S&P 500 closed down 2%. Tech stocks led the losses across the board, and tech focused on NASDAQ Composite finished down 2.8%. Oof. The S&P 500 marked its worst session since May, while NASDAQ had its worst day since March. For the Dow, it's just the worst decline since the week's sell-off. It's a bit of tapering tantrum, said Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research. The 10-year Treasury bond yield, which is sensitive to inflation expectations, rose 1.5% around the time of the closing bell. Bond yields and prices move in opposition to each other. Remarks about inflation from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell spooked investors this morning and pushed bond yields higher. Inflation is elevated and will likely remain so in the coming months before moderating, Powell said in prepared remarks before the Senate Committee on Banking. Don't worry, it's transitory. Housing and urban affairs. These supply-side restrictions are so much at the heart of the inflation we're seeing. In some cases, they've gotten worse, Powell told lawmakers at the hearing. Rising levels of inflation over the summer convinced economists and investors that Fed would soon tap the brakes on its enormous monetary stimulus program. Last week, Powell said the central bank was nearly there and that a moderation in the pace of monthly asset purchases may soon be warranted. The stock market reacted little at a time as the comments met expectations, but Tuesday's sell-off might be still about tapering the Fed's process of cutting back on monthly purchases. Powell and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen testified before Congress on Tuesday regarding the pandemic and the CARES Act. Yellen told lawmakers that the government will run out of cash and face extraordinary measures by October 18th if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling. Deficits have been run under both Democrat and Republican administrators. It's important to recognize that, Yellen said. And that means paying the bills for some of those deficits is a shared responsibility. It should not be the shared responsibility of one party. Oh, shit, the Instagram's already out. We're not 40 minutes in. Regardless, we're going to stick with that and continue to go off of this. While policymakers are busy in Washington, American consumers are growing less confident. The Conference Board's Consumer Index declined for a third month in a row on September as the spread of the Delta variant continued to dampen optimism, said Lynn Franco, Senior Director of Economic Indicators at that Conference Board. And I hate that argument, by the way. Well, deficits and debts have been run by both Democrat and Republicans, so it's important to recognize that. And that means if that means paying the bills for some of those deficits is a shared responsibility, it should not be the responsibility of any one party. Okay. This is exactly the same as saying, sorry, little Billy, but both mommy and daddy have run up massive credit card debt against each other, so we need to go and get more credit cards to run up more debt to go pay more bills. In a household, no, you put your foot down and you say, fuck no, we gotta stop it. It doesn't matter who did it at this point, we've gotta stop that. I've dealt with this at previous jobs in the past too, where people are so eager to run out and play the blame game. Oh, well, this person did it, especially in the retail sector. I'm going to tell you that right now. Working in a grocery store, that was a big one. Oh, this person burned the chicken. This person didn't get everything put away correctly. This person left a mess here. I've always said, I don't care who did it. You guys can bicker over that in the background. I don't care who did it. Let's get it fixed. Let's stop worsening it. Why is the first answer here to go and worsen this? Why is the first answer to go in and say, okay, well, this side did it, this side did it, so let's go do it a whole bunch more? No, the problem is that the inflationary spending and the debt ceiling are driving more inflation, stagflation, and they are going to put a dagger in the heart of the economy. And $3.5 trillion of human infrastructure spending is not going to fix that. In fact, I anticipate it's going to make it much, much worse. Stop the spending. It is time. A lot of people are going to be disappointed if you break your promises to them, but you know, we're getting at a point where the majority of people in the world are disappointed with the government no matter who's in office. And I like that, by the way. So that's what we're seeing coming out of CNN. Let's look at one from the street. Boeing paces down Dow futures rebound. Tech stocks get a boost as Treasury yields ease. From Martin Backerdax. U.S. equity futures bounced higher Wednesday while the Treasury bond yields eased from multi-month peaks as investors look to claw back some of yesterday's declines while closely tracking negotiations tied to the debt ceiling and ongoing impact of the rolling global crisis. Benchmark 10-year note yields slipped to 1.508% in overnight trading as growth concerns linked to both power cuts in China surging, energy costs in Europe overtook worries about the faster than near-term inflation. That move alongside a bullish outlook from ASML Holding, and that is not ASMR, because ASMR would be freaky as shit. The crucial supplier to the global semiconductor sector is helping tech stocks stage a solid pre-market comeback. ASML, which makes extreme ultraviolet lithography systems, which design complex chips used by sector titans such as Samsung, Intel, and Taiwan Semiconductor, report that cost is as much as 160 million euros each. Said Wednesday that global megatrends in the electronics industry will produce revenue growth of around 11% year over the next decade. European stocks rebounded from yesterday's tumble, the biggest since July, with a 1% gain powered by tech and energy shares, while Asia, caught in the downdraft from Wall Street's Wednesday slump, fell 75%. In the U.S., concerns linked to a government shutdown later this week, as well as failure to suspend the nation's $28.4 trillion debt ceiling, continue to keep bulls in check. However, after another effort by Democratic lawmakers to break the Senate deadlock, failed again last night. So, a few things going on there. The chip market is also being a problem with this, and that's also affecting your cell phone prices and the cell phones that go along with that, your computer prices, the ability to get GPUs for a new computer, or the ability to get stuff for a new computer regardless. Auto manufacturing, that's all affected. Tesla manufacturing. There are massive supply side issues to this. It's not just your manufacturing, it's not just your meat, your basic stuff, but it's also the cool stuff that you want to have. Not your necessities, but the cool stuff as well. So, a lot of stuff going on with this, a lot of stuff to watch. We got to get into some of the big news of the day. And we are going to start, there are a couple things we're going to start with here before we get into the big military thing. First off, I want to listen to this little bit of accidental truth from Mrs. Nancy Pelosi. Let's have a listen to what it is that she had to say.
Keep government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda of building back better. Address the full Obama agenda of building back better.
So, who's in charge? The full Obama agenda of building back better. And this is not Nancy Pelosi, by the way, from 12 years ago. This is Nancy Pelosi from, like, a couple days ago. She looked a little bit healthier 12 years ago. Because she was still ancient by that point, but, yeah. So, there's that. And then I've got another one here for you guys, because this is a catch-up from something yesterday. Now, we talked about the fact that it wasn't a cult, and Kathy Hochul, I guess is how you pronounce it. I heard it on the radio the other day. Kathy Hochul telling us that, we read the transcript. Kathy Hochul, oh, well, be my apostles. Well, now we're going to actually listen to her talk about the vaccine coming from God, and I need you to be my apostles. Let's listen to Kathy Hochul.
I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine that is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones, but you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools. I want you to be safe when you go to a...
It's not a cult, folks. They assure us all the time. It's only MAGA that's the cult. It's not a cult. It's not a religion. I'm pretty sure it's a religion at this point. All right, let's get in and let's start off the day talking about the military hearings with our friends over at NPR. And remember, folks, NPR, they need our money, comrade, to continue to spread their communist ideals around the world. That's why they have the donate button at the top. So please, please donate to NPR. They need it. Your taxpayer dollars are not enough. So hit that button and let's see what they have to say. Generals say they recommended keeping U.S. troops in Afghanistan. This is from Barbara Sprunt over at NPR. Never providing reality. National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they have to say. Top Pentagon officials have stated publicly for the first time that they personally believed it would be a mistake to withdraw all American troops from Afghanistan. Of course they did. Of course they did. Because they're military fucking neocon warmongers that want to come back and stay in that region forever because they get kickbacks from the big defense contractor companies. You know why they're doing this. Everybody knows why they're doing this. Bacteria on Mars know why they're doing this. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, and Commander of U.S. Central Command, General Kenneth McKenzie, all testified during a Tuesday hearing before the State Armed Services Committee. The hearing featured rigorous questioning from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Democrat and Republican lawmakers alike have criticized the chaotic withdrawal. They saw U.S. troops try to coordinate a mammoth evacuation of Americans and Afghan allies as the Taliban quickly gained control of the country. Criticism of the administration's actions became heightened when 13 U.S. troops were killed in an attack in Kabul by the terrorist group ISIS-K. Excuse me. Austin, Milley, and McKenzie all took great care when answering questions about the withdrawal and would not discuss the conversations with President Biden. I will give you my honest opinion, and view shaped by my recommendation to the President, said McKenzie. I recommend that we maintain 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. We'll watch that video. And I also recommended earlier in the fall of 2020 that we maintain 4,500 at that time. I also have a view that the withdrawal of these forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government. This is at odds with comments that Biden made during an interview in August when he saw his military advisors did not tell him to keep troops on the ground past the withdrawal deadline. There you go. Donate now to NPR. White House Press Secretary, red-haired bobblehead, said that Biden made clear in the interview that advisors were split over the issue. She said Biden's military advisors also made clear that they had 2,500 troops left in Afghanistan. They would have to had to fight the Taliban and would need to be reinforced. There was a range of viewpoints, as was evidenced by their testimony today, Psaki told reporters, noting that Biden had asked his advisors for their frank assessments and recommendations. He didn't think it was in the interests of the American people to keep a troop presence in Afghanistan, she said. Ultimately, it's up to the commander-in-chief to make the decision. That is correct. Or the people pulling the strings, let's be completely honest about that one. But yeah, I mean, it is on the president to make those decisions. That's what he's put there for. The military brass can come back and advise, and they can go back and undermine the president, as was the case towards the drawdown of the Trump administration, but no. And this, I do like seeing this here, and I like some of the criticism that I saw this yesterday, because, once again, progressives are still largely anti-war. The neoliberal Democrats are pro-war because they have a Democrat in office who thinks that we should be there, and, of course, the actual withdrawal was brokered by evil Donald Trumpler. So they want to stay in there forever because evil Donald Trumpler said that we should get out of there. So that means that we should stay. It's opposite day whenever evil Donald Trumpler talks. And of course you've got your war pigs like your fucking Liz Cheney, your Bushes, your people like that, your Romney, your people like that. But then yes, I mean in the populist MAGA crowd, war has become a dirty word. And I hope that means that there's so much public sentiment that says that we shouldn't go back to war that we don't go back to fucking war. But I have no faith in this decision. Let's start with a little bit from Marsha Blackburn, talking a bit about what she had to say, because she's on the Senate Armed Forces Committee, so some of the questioning that she was giving out to some of these generals. Let's have a listen.
So, how did we get here, and how did we get to what has been a complete letdown to most Tennesseans? And I've got a few questions. These are yes or no questions, so quick answers are appreciated. General Milley, were there options given for keeping American troops in Afghanistan rather than the unconditional chaotic withdrawal?
Yes.
You presented options, and those options were declined.
There were options presented and debated.
Yes or no?
A decision was made.
Yes or no is fine. Did you at any point create options for keeping Bagram open beyond July 2nd?
Yes.
Did you provide options for keeping Bagram open directly to the president?
Yes.
Had Bagram stayed open, would our support to the Afghan Air Force have been more effective in your view?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
If Bagram had stayed open, would our support to the Afghan Air Force have been more effective in your view? Yes or no?
Frankly, I'm not sure on that one because most of the Afghan Air Force was at different bases, specifically at HKIA.
President Biden keeps calling it an extraordinary success. We've discussed some of this today. Is leaving Americans behind an extraordinary success in your view? Secretary Austin?
We're not leaving Americans
Yes
behind.
or no is fine. Is the killing of 13 American servicemen and women while trying to secure a chaotic evacuation of the president's own making an extraordinary success?
The loss of any civilian life is always tragic.
Is the fact that we failed to evacuate most of our Afghan partners an extraordinary success, or the fact that we have Afghans bringing child brides, people who are hardly vetted? Is that an extraordinary success?
Again, these are issues that we continue to work to get our American citizens out and the Afghans who helped us.
Let me move on. Per Article 2 of the Constitution, the President may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments. Did the President ever require or request written recommendations related to the withdrawal of the Afghan forces? Yes or no? Secretary Austin, then General Milley, then General McKenzie. Yes or no?
We provided. I provided our input as a part of a
written form?
policy process that was very well and deliberately run.
We will note that you didn't completely answer that. General Milley, any written form?
Oh,
Yes.
ooh. We will note that you didn't completely answer that.
Would you make those available to us?
Make it available to the committee upon request in accordance with appropriate classifications.
We will do so. General McKenzie? Yes or
Yes.
no? And you will make those available.
Based on guidance from the Secretary.
Each of you had committed to make those available.
All right, so a lot of stuff to unpack there, but I mean, Austin, he won't come out and give a straight answer, which I find hilarious. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this was they threw the Biden himself under the bus as they're sitting here trying to claw back. And I don't know what happened in that room. You don't know what happened in that room. None of us know what actually happened in that room when they were sitting there talking about all this. What we do know is the fact that we're sitting here, we're looking at this, and these people are the ones who had to make a lot of the decisions off of this. And Biden himself, again, I don't know how much he actually knows what's going on. I am to the mind that a lot of this possibly is a gigantic act. I don't know if it's hard to tell with Biden because he's been such an adept such an adept politician throughout his entire life, and the more he acts stupid, I mean, if it is an act, the more he acts stupid, the less he's expected to be out in front of the camera by the people who actually voted for him. That is one thing that would work in his favor for acting stupid, but there is also a chance, because he's almost 80 fucking years old, that it actually is dementia. In fact, there's a greater chance of that, but regardless, yeah, these people are throwing him right under the bus for this, so, yeah, and I love that with Marsha Blackburn. The record will note that General Austin failed to answer completely. That was great. All right, let's talk a bit about more of this. From Newsweek, General McKenzie contradicts Biden, testifies he told him to leave 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. From Alex J. Ruhanden, top U.S. military officials spoke before the Senate Committee on Armed Services, where they answered questions pertaining to the Biden admin's withdrawal from Afghanistan. An answer from Commander of the U.S. Central Command, Kenneth McKenzie, put the general at odds with President Biden. I recommended that we maintain that we maintain 2,500 troops in Afghanistan, he told Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe. When the committee ranking member asked if the general agreed with the assessment, Army General Austin Miller shared in a classified testimony in which he stated he opposed total withdrawal. This contrasted a statement President Biden provided during his ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos last month, when Stephanopoulos asked, "Your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can continue to do that," the president responded by saying, No one but said that to me that I can recall." Well, that actually might be a true statement, because he has Alzheimer's, or maybe acting like he has Alzheimer's, because if I just say he has Alzheimer's, I contradict what I just said at the end of Marsha Blackburn's video. But he's either acting like he has Alzheimer's or he has Alzheimer's. And he might not actually remember this. But it's interesting, and it's interesting to kind of watch the dynamic of some of this play out too, assuming that Biden has the cognitive ability to be in military command of the largest military in the world. Assuming that he has the command, he is facing down and wondering whether or not he comes out and says, because he loses a lot of the progressive base if he comes in and says, "No, man, we're going to keep those 2,500 troops in Afghanistan because otherwise something bad's going to happen and people are going to come out and die, and we're not going to be able to keep American citizens there if they want to go." That completely undercuts promises he made to the progressives, and he is undercutting those left and right. Forward, backwards, inside and out, left and right, he is breaking those promises to them. So there wasn't really an option on the president's table, as far as politically, as far as what he could sell to the American people, for him to keep 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. In spite of what Austin Miller, Mark Milley, Lloyd Austin, in spite of what all of them told him, there wasn't the option there. Like I said, with Trump being in office previous and saying, "No, okay, we need a full military withdrawal from Afghanistan. Full, not just partial, full." And the MAGA people, and even some of the progressives cheering for it, because, no more war, there was no way that he could leave 2,500 troops there. It just wouldn't work. But that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one from CBS News. Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley says the Afghanistan withdrawal was a strategic failure. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark... Do I have an author for this? From Eleanor Watson and Paulina Smolinski. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley offered senators a blunt assessment of the hasty U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. "It was a logistical success, but a strategic failure," Milley told members of the Senate Armed Services Committee on Tuesday. He suggested the war had been lost, but touted the U.S. military effort that evacuated more than 124,000 people in the final weeks of the U.S. presence in the country. The nation's top military officials, Milley, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, and CENTCOM Commander Ken McKenzie, faced tough questioning, insults, and calls for their resignation from Congress in their first appearance before lawmakers since the withdrawal. Austin anticipated questions about the execution of the withdrawal in his opening statement. Was it perfect? He asked. Of course not, though he too took note of the evacuation. In mid-April, President Biden announced that all U.S. troops would leave Afghanistan by September 11th, a date he later moved up to August 31st. The military leaders said Tuesday publicly that they had recommended to Mr. Biden that the U.S. maintain a residual force of 2,500 troops in Afghanistan, the level that was in place at the end of the Trump administration. McKenzie said he was confident the president heard the recommendations and listened carefully. Once Mr. Biden made his decision, the U.S. military began carrying out the withdrawal of U.S. troops, which was effectively finished in July, but with the closure of Bagram Air Force Base, the largest military base in Afghanistan. The administration had intended to keep the embassy in Kabul open to continue to engage with the Afghan government, but in just 11 days in August, the Afghan military forces and government collapsed, surprising U.S. officials. There's no intel assessment that says the government's going to collapse and the military is going to collapse in 11 days, Milley told senators. Really? Because, I'm going to tell you right now, as a guy who never served, as a guy who really only ever plays war games, video games, but as a person who was never there, as a person who's never seen the top secret classifications, who's never seen the troop levels, I saw it coming. I knew what was going to happen. The Taliban's takeover of districts near Kabul made it necessary to begin a non-combatant evacuation operation to mass airlift a mass airlift effort that took place in August. Once the State Department called for the operation, the military began to evacuate U.S. Embassy personnel, American citizens, and at-risk Afghans. On August the 14th. Jeez, why can't I talk today? On August the 14th, the ambassador, Ross Wilson, called the NEO. Should that have been called that earlier? I think that's an open question that needs further exploration based on a series of meetings, Milley said. So, a lot of this, like I said, they're coming out and they're trying to say how successful it was, that they got 124,000 people out in just 17 days, which is actually a tremendous feat. I'm not going to deny that to you. I'm not going to tell you and say that it wasn't impressive that you got that many people out. But we were told that everybody was going to be out. Now there's talks that there are up to 4,000 U.S. citizens still in Afghanistan. There are a bunch of refugees that got out of there right away, but there's still up to 4,000. Now, the official numbers we're getting from the official sources, the accepted sources, CNN, NBC, ABC, shit like that, is that there may be a couple hundred people there, 100 to 200 people there. But I've heard other background information that talks about up to 4,000 people that are still there, that are U.S. citizens, not just people who worked with the U.S., but actual U.S. citizens still in Afghanistan. I don't know what the actual number is. You don't know what the actual number is. I'm sure CNN knows what the actual number is, but they're not going to tell us what the actual number is. But there's still a bunch of people over there. So even that I wouldn't consider to be a great success. All right, let's keep going. Well, we got to refresh this one a couple times. Or just once, continue without supporting. General Milley says he wasn't trying to undermine Trump in a China call. Do I have any more on the Afghan withdrawal before we do this? Yeah, let's actually put this first, because that's more with the Afghans than the China thing. So let's do this one first. Let's listen to Tom Cotton here. Back her up, and let's have a listen.
I've got one final question. General Milley, I can only conclude that your advice about staying in Afghanistan was rejected. I'm shocked to learn that your advice wasn't sought until August 25th on staying past the August 31 deadline. I understand that you're the principal military advisor, that you advise, you don't decide, the president decides. But if all this is true, General Milley, why haven't you resigned?
Senator, as a senior military officer, resigning is a really serious thing. It's a political act if I'm resigning in protest My job is to provide advice. My statutory responsibility is to provide legal advice or best military advice to the president, and that's my legal requirement. That's what the law is. The president doesn't have to agree with that advice. He doesn't have to make those decisions just because we're generals. And it would be an incredible act of political defiance for a commissioned officer to just resign because my advice is not taken. This country doesn't want generals figuring out what orders we are going to accept and do or not. That's not our job. The principle of civilian control of the military is absolute. It's critical to this republic.
No, that's actually what the people want. And it's not just military either. You know, we see the popularity, especially in rural areas, when we talk about sheriffs. Elected sheriffs who are still beholden to the people that they serve because they are elected. They're not appointed by a city council or the mayor. They're elected. And they sit back there and they say, oh, I'm going to choose which law that I'm going to follow. Yes, it may be suicide, career suicide for a general to come back and say, I have to go and deny the commander-in-chief's order because it's morally wrong, it's blatantly wrong, and we need to do something else off of this. Yes, that may be true, and it may end your career, but it's more about doing what's right than it is about doing what you're told. No, and that's one of the other things. And, you know, looking back, and I just watched the Clone Wars. I told you about that. And we'll actually be talking about the Clone Wars movie. I'm sorry, I just watched the prequel trilogy. And then I just started in with the Clone Wars yesterday. So we'll talk a little bit about that and thing that I like and thing that I hate. But that was the key difference that the Republic made when it came to the droids versus the clones, is that clones could still independently think and make battlefield decisions. Yes, they were bred to be more obedient and not to question authority as much. They were bred for that. The Kaminoans said that in Attack of the Clones. They said that specifically. They were bred for that. But they still had the ability to do independent thinking. We don't want drones and robots for warfare. The people who just do what the president says at the push of a button. We want people who can look down at this and say, no, this is unconstitutional. This is horrible. This is a war crime. And Mr. President, I will take my badges off right now and you can go and fuck yourself. I will step down right now. So no, Milley is wrong.
Look, in addition to that, just from a personal standpoint, you know, my dad didn't get a choice to resign at Iwo Jima. And those kids that are at Abbey Gate, they don't get a choice to resign. And I'm not going to turn my back on them. I'm not going to resign. They can't resign, so I'm not going to resign. There's no way. If the orders are illegal, we're in a different place. But if the orders are legal from civilian authority, I intend to carry them out.
Thank you, Senator Cotton.
But yeah, that was actually a good quip from Cotton, too. General Milley, why haven't you resigned? All right, now let's talk about the China call, because that I also think is worth noting. Where's the music? General Milley says he wasn't trying to undermine Trump in China call. From Tegan Flynn. General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Tuesday, said that he was not trying to usurp authority when he told Chinese counterpart that he would warn Chinese officials before the U.S. launched an attack and that other administration officials were aware of the calls. The calls on 30 October and 8 January were coordinated before and after with Secretary Mark Esper and Acting Secretary Chris Miller's staffs and interagency, Milley said during an opening statement before the Senate Armed Services Committee. My task at that time was to de-escalate, he said. De-escalate what? Milley has been at the center of a firestorm amid reports that he made 2 calls to General Li Zucheng of the People's Liberation Army to assure him that the United States was not going to suddenly go to war or attack China. The calls were revealed in a book by Washington Post journalists Bob Woodward and Robert Costas entitled Peril, which once again, why do we suddenly trust what Bob Woodward has to say without question? Milley said he made the calls to assure Chinese officials that there would not be an attack by the U.S. military after intelligence officials flagged concerns that the Chinese believed such a strike was possible. At no time was I attempting to change or influence the process, usurp authority, or insert myself into the chain of command. But I am expected to give my advice and ensure that the president is fully informed, he said. But see, you may not have been attempting to change or influence the process or insert yourself into the chain of command, but you did. That's the problem. But you did. And that goes on to the high treason part of this. You basically sit back, you went down and you told China, hey, you know what? There's not going to be any military action until the new president takes place. Have fun! Because I'm going to stop President Trump, any of President Trump's ability to fight back. And how do you think that would have looked politically, by the way, if we had never known about what General Milley did? If there was an attack somewhere, just God forbid, China tosses a suicide bomb into, what's another big building that didn't get fucking hit? I would say into Chicago, but they would never get past our air defenses from that. But let's just say, let's actually use that as an example. Let's say China went ahead and threw a suicide bomber into the Willis Tower. The Sears Tower. Let's be real. Let's say they just struck an airplane into that. A fighter plane that's on suicide mode, or even did what the Afghanis did, or the Saudis did, let's be honest with that. But did what they did back on the Al-Qaeda days and flew a commercial airliner into the Sears Tower. And now suddenly we're sitting here and President Trump is saying, okay, we've got to go to war. We got to do something about this because these people did a terrorist attack on our country, and I'm still going to hand over the reins of power when the day comes on January 6th. But we got to do something now, and the military just sits on their hands. What do you think that would have done? What would have happened there? This is all politics. This is all posturing. I know I am certain President Trump did not intend on attacking the Chinese, and it's my directed responsibility to convey presidential orders and intent, Milley said. During the question portion of the hearing, Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn asked Milley to confirm he spoke to the authors of the book. Woodward yes, Costa no, said Milley in response to the question. When asked if he was depicted accurately, Milley told Blackburn he hadn't read the book. She urged him to do so and get back to her, to which he replied, happy to do that. No, you did undermine the chain of command, and you inserted yourself into it. You may not have intended to, but you did. So, yeah, another one where he's just throwing everybody else under the bus, trying to save what little bit of career he has left at this point. Alright, let's grab one from the New York Post. Marine who blasted Afghan withdrawal being held in military lockup from Jerome Steinbuch. This is very interesting to me because of the way that people were defending this on Twitter. Now, I took this directly from the New York Post Twitter account where people are coming in and, well, let me just read this for a second. I'll point out to you what they were saying. Because the headline was just like that. Military who blasted Afghan withdrawal is being held in military lockup. He's being silenced. His First Amendment rights are being taken away. Well, technically true. Let's talk a bit about what's going on there. The U.S. Marine Corps officer who was relieved of his command for chastising his bosses over the botched Afghan withdrawal has landed in a military lockup, his father said. In a video that went viral on Facebook last month, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller ripped into military leadership following the devastating suicide bombing at the Kabul airport, which killed 13 U.S. service members and scores of Afghans. Following the impassioned spiel, Lieutenant Colonel Scheller announced he was resigning his commission and walking away from a $2 million pension after 17 years of service. He later announced he was ordered to undergo a mental health screening. Now his father told the Task and Purpose that the officer is currently in the brig. All our son did is ask questions that everyone was asking themselves, but they were too scared to speak out loud, Stu Scheller Sr. told the news outlet. He was asking for accountability. In fact, I think he even asked for an apology that we made mistakes, but they couldn't do that, which is mind-blowing, the elder Scheller said, adding his son is due to appear before a military hearing on Tuesday. They had a gag order on him and asked him not to speak. He did, and they incarcerated him. They don't know what to do with him, the father said. In a statement, Marine Corps spokesman Captain Sam Stevenson told the Task and Purpose that Scheller is currently in pre-trial confinement in the regional break for Marine Corps installations east aboard Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. That is a lot of words for one simple lockup. Pending Article 32 preliminary hearing. He said that the time, date, and location of the proceedings have not been determined. Lieutenant Colonel Scheller will be afforded all due processes. So, a lot of people correctly pointed out because, well, first off, a lot of people correctly pointed out that this guy's freedom of speech was being taken away. He was being locked up for speaking out against the government. He was being locked up for the very things that the First Amendment was supposed to protect. Technically, that's not true. Technically, the people who were rushing to the defense of the government, technically those people are correct in the fact that he is in lockup for disobeying a direct order. That's actually military procedure. He's not locked up. Well, he is locked up for speaking out against the government. That's because the direct order was not to speak out against the government. But I don't understand, and this is the thing that bothers me the most about the "we are for the government when our guy is in power" that crowd. That really bothers me. It actually frightens the shit out of me for these people, is that there are people out there who are suddenly all in for the government because, you know, it's not the evil orange man running. And they're not questioning the fact that this order exists. That's what concerns me, is the fact that this order even existed in the first place. That's what I think we need to sit down and have a conversation about, is the fact that this order occurred. That somebody wrote down and said, "You shall not speak out against the government," especially during this Afghanistan withdrawal. And he was technically, because he hadn't announced his resignation prior to making the statement, I believe. So he was actually still in uniform, technically. He was still a uniformed service member when he made that statement. And that's another one of those things, like I just talked about with Milley, and we want people who will do what's right and walk away from their pensions, their big government benefits, in order to make sure what's right is done. And that's what this guy did. Make no mistake, that's what this dude did. He looked at this, he walked away from a $2 million pension and broke orders. Because he can think for himself. And yes, he put himself in harm's way. He could, I don't think the firing squad is going to come into play, but he could be in prison for a while for resigning his commission. He's not technically going AWOL at this point, but for resigning his commission and disobeying the direct order. He could be looking down 5 to 10 years for that. But he wanted to do what was right, not what the military said was right. So I like that. All right, let's keep going. Let's shift gears here. Let's talk more about Congress, but let's talk about the Banking Committee. So we're going to start here listening to Jerome Powell talking about maximum employment and the recovery. Let's listen.
The unemployment rate was 5.2% in August, and this figure understates the shortfall in employment, particularly as participation in the labor market has not moved up from the low rates that have prevailed for most of the past year. Factors related to the pandemic appear to be weighing on employment growth. These factors should diminish with progress on containing the virus. The process of the reopening of the economy is unprecedented. As it continues, bottlenecks, hiring difficulties, and other constraints could again prove to be greater and more enduring than anticipated, posing upside risks to inflation. If sustained higher inflation were to become a serious concern, we would certainly respond and use our tools to ensure levels that are consistent with our goal. The Fed's actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in the service of our public mission. We will do all we can to support the economy for as long as it takes. Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may just offer one thing. What I said last week was that we had all but met the test for tapering. I made it clear that we are and we are, in my view, a long way from meeting the test for maximum employment. Thank you.
Yeah. And this one, I mean, this video was heavily edited too, so they cut down a lot out of this and really just summarized off of that. But, I mean, we are a long way from maximum employment because there's still benefits out there that are incentivizing people not to go out and get employed. Hell, the help wanted signs are still everywhere around Janesville. The local Quick Trip has a sign that says, "We desperately need 2 more people, 1 for day shift and 1 for night shift. And this is what we're starting at. Please come in and apply." So, I mean, this is still a thing. And yeah, there's still people begging for work because they need more workers. Let's read a little bit about this here from CNBC. Senator Warren calls Fed Chair Powell a dangerous man, says she will oppose his renomination from Jeff Cox. Senator Elizabeth Warren charged Tuesday that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has led an effort to weaken the nation's banking system, and she vowed to oppose his renomination. In remarks made during a hearing before the Senate Banking Committee, the Mass Democrat cited several instances where she said Powell Fed has watered down post-financial crisis banking regulations. "Your record gives me grave concerns. Over and over you have acted to make our banking system less safe, and that makes you a dangerous man to head up the Fed, and that's why I will oppose your renomination," Warren said. Powell did not respond to Warren's comment that she will oppose him. Probably the best for him, and I don't know that he has a much longer career either, because he's kind of botched this. Warren said deregulatory moves could cause another calamity, the likes of which the U.S. saw during a 2008-2009 breakdown of Wall Street institutions. She called Powell lucky that the banks so far have been able to avoid major problems, citing the Archegos capital management collapse and the banking industry's collective need for Fed assistance during the coronavirus pandemic as dangers to the system exacerbated deregulatory moves. "So far, you've been lucky, but the 2008 crash shows what happens when luck runs out," she said. "The seeds of a 2008 crash were planted years in advance by major regulators like the Federal Reserve that refused to rein in big banks. I came to Washington after the 2008 crash to make sure nothing like that would ever happen again." Powell has served since 2018 and his term expires in February. Wall Street widely expects President Biden to renominate Powell, though Warren and other more liberal senators are likely to provide some resistance. Even if he does seek to give Powell another term, Biden will have a chance to remake the Fed. Randy Corliss, the current vice chair in charge of supervision, will see his term expire in October, and the current Fed governor, Lael Brainerd, who favors a stronger regulatory hand, has been given frequent mention as a potential replacement. Vice Chairman Richard Clarida will see his time in the Federal Reserve Board of Governors expire in January, and there remains another vacancy on the board. Bob Menendez grilled Powell during his hearing on the lack of diversity at the central bank. Biden will face pressure to provide a diverse set of nominees for the Fed vacancies. And by the way, that means diversity of skin color. That does not mean diversity of thought, opinion, or otherwise. They all have to have the same thought. Go and print more money. Money printer go burr. We need more money. Who cares about inflation? Fuck inflation. But they've all got to have a different skin color. So that's what we see coming off of that. And I can actually see some of what Warren's saying. The seeds are planted for another crash. I mean, the dollar is inflating out of fucking control right now. Gas is massively high, like to a point that's almost unsustainable. Rents are going up. Mortgages, I mean, there are houses out there that are going for $100,000 over asking price in major cities. I was just talking to a girl about that last night. That the house that she wanted went for $100,000 over asking price. These are the seeds for another crash. But Warren doesn't have the answers. Warren's answers is just print more money and give it out to more people, especially the people that support her. But I do kind of oppose Powell going down. I don't know enough about Powell to come out and say that, yes, we definitely need to not let him go, but I don't care for him personally. I don't think he's doing a good job. I don't know who would do better. I don't think I could do better in the situation we're in, but I don't think he's doing a good enough job to warrant his renomination. Let's keep going. Shifting the gears to the $3.5 trillion bill from Julie Sirkin, who is blue-checked because she is a Congress correspondent, I guess, from NBC News. Jersey girl covering Congress. I don't know, but she's blue-checked. But she is here saying Manchin returns from his meeting with Biden, tells us he made no commitments to the president on the reconciliation package. There was no commitments made at all, he said, when asked about the top line number, just good negotiations talking about the needs of the country. Let's listen.
Did you give President Biden a top line?
No. We had good, honest. They were really good, honest, straightforward negotiations.
Have you made any commitment to the president?
No. There was no commitments made at all. No commitments from that standpoint. Just good negotiations and talking about the needs of our country.
Has he given you a date for that top line where he said he needs to see that top line?
So, and I mean, good on Manchin for holding true. I mean, really, honestly, that's what we need to see off of this, because Pelosi, Schumer, Biden, they're going to try to pressure everybody else to go and do what it is that they want, because otherwise it is. I mean, Biden is looking at a major lame duck presidency in which he gets nothing done. So that doesn't look good on the re-election side. Ariadna, who I follow, the progressive I follow, says Biden probably told him to stop obstructing. Probably. There were probably a lot of, come on, mans! And I know you, man. I served with you. Come on, man. Hey, all those years ago in the Senate, man. Just do what I say, okay? East Coast boy to East Coast boy. But we can talk a bit about this with that. From CBS News, Manchin and Sinema meet with Biden over reconciliation bill concerns. From Catherine Watson. Moderate Democrats, Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kyrsten Sinema, held separate meetings with President Biden at the White House on Tuesday, as the White House and most Democrats pushed an up to $3.5 trillion bill to expand the social safety net. Mr. Biden's first-term domestic agenda is packed into the massive bill, which has no Republican support, and will have to be passed using a budgetary process called reconciliation. This will enable it to pass with 50 votes rather than 60 votes that are normally required to pass Senate measures. Its fate is largely in the hands of two moderates, Sinema and Manchin, because the Senate is evenly divided 50-50. Both senators have said the bill is too large and must be trimmed to win their support. Another factor, House progressives are demanding that the Senate vote on the larger bill first, or they will not support this smaller $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that passed with bipartisan support in the Senate. Late Tuesday, the president canceled a scheduled Wednesday trip to Chicago to talk about COVID-19 vaccines so he can stay in town and work on advancing the infrastructure and the reconciliation bills. Sinema of Arizona declined to answer questions about her meeting with the president upon her return to Capitol Hill. She has said little publicly about what she wants to see cut from the final reconciliation bill, except to note that the price is too damn high. Sinema is scheduled to hold a fundraiser Tuesday with business lobbying groups that oppose the reconciliation bill, according to the New York Times, a former newspaper. I will leave it to them to convey where they're comfortable in terms of top-line numbers, but the president felt it was constructive, felt they moved the ball forward, felt there was an agreement. We're at a pivotal moment. White House Press Secretary, red-haired bobblehead, said after the president's meeting with Sinema, but before the meeting with her West Virginia colleague had concluded. Manchin also divulged little after seeing his meeting with the president, saying it lasted maybe 60 or 90 minutes. We're still dealing in good faith, Manchin said on various meetings he's had with the reconciliation bill. So he's holding firm off of this, but I know that he'll probably sit back and sway, especially if it comes down to an election thing. Because I don't necessarily trust Manchin. I trust Sinema more, which is a little crazy for me to think. Just based on some of the details surrounding her election and some of the stories I've heard of that. I'm a little bit afraid that Manchin is sitting here waiting around to see if he can use this for an opportunity to turn around and use this for re-election. To come up and make campaign ads and say, we need 60 senators, so vote Democrat or else you won't get this $30 trillion, whatever the fuck it is, reconciliation bill. We need your support so we can spend more money. And I mean, I like the fact that Manchin's held it up, but he's been rubbing me the wrong way lately, and I don't know what it is about him. All right, but that's what we see coming off of that. Of course, the people are pissed off with this, reading from CNN. Patience wanes as Democrats demand Sinema and Manchin reveal views on Biden agenda. From Manu Raju and Lauren Fox. She gets summoned to the White House for private audiences with President Biden and is in regular communication with Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer and his senior aides, and Republicans are hoping she will hold the line against liberals in her caucus. Yet there are very few in the Capitol who know where Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema actually stands, as she, along with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, hold the key to her party's agenda and potentially the fate of her party's chances in next year's midterm elections. In interviews with a range of Democrats, including with House liberals, top leaders, and key committee chairmen, patience is clearly wearing thin, and anxiety is growing that the party could see the entirety of the agenda collapse amid deepening disputes between their warring moderates and progressive wings. There's nearly universal consensus they want to hear Sinema and Manchin publicly detail their demands and the price tag they'd accept for the bill. We just need to get a number, right? Said Representative Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California and a member of the House's Progressive Caucus. The House is going to be unified. We need to get one number from one senator, and I think we've got to make it very clear that that's holding everything back. The White House seems keenly aware of the dynamic, with Sinema holding a meeting with Biden and 2 separate meetings with the president's top aides on Tuesday alone, and Manchin also getting FaceTime with the president for more than an hour. Sinema herself has had 10 official meetings at the White House since this summer, aides say. But sources familiar with the sessions said there were ample areas of disagreement, and it was far from wow, I cannot read this morning, you guys. It was far from clear how quickly a deal could be reached. The failure to get a deal with moderate senators over the bill's scope, key policy details, and its price tag, they want it slashed from $3.5 trillion cost, has forced Speaker Pelosi to abruptly reverse course on her initial strategy. She promised for months to hold a final vote on a $1 trillion infrastructure bill until the larger economic package first was approved by the Senate. Dude, watch this get denied. Watch it get denied. I have my hands folded in prayer. Watch this get denied by progressives. Led by their glorious leader, the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch. No, puppy, we are not going to vote on this. We're going to vote no on this unless you give us the reconciliation package first, puppy. Okay, girlfriends, let's get out of here. But now Pelosi is planning on moving the infrastructure bill first for a final vote on Thursday due to a previous deal she was forced to cut with House moderates without the larger economic plan close to finished. I don't think Pelosi is doing this because she doesn't think they can get Manchin on board. I think Pelosi is doing this so they can use the budget reconciliation on the debt ceiling because they're running out of time and they're running out of options. And I think that's hilarious. That's what we see coming off of that. Let's go to the protests from the Hill. Protesters demonstrate outside Manchin's houseboat over opposition to reconciliation package. Stop visiting people at their fucking homes! Do you know how creepy that is? From Michael Schnell. Advocates from several groups demonstrated outside of Senator Manchin's House vote on Monday, protesting the senator's opposition to Democrats' multi-trillion-dollar reconciliation package. Representatives from Young, West Virginia, Race Matters West Virginia, the Center for Popular Democracy Action, the largest grassroots immigrant advocacy organization in the Mid-Atlantic area, and Greenpeace USA protested outside Manchin's House vote in Washington, D.C., in their own boats and kayaks to protest his opposition to the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package, a key component of President Biden's legislative agenda. The protesters held signs that read, "We don't sink West Virginia. Manchin passed the bill. BBB brings jobs to West Virginia," referring to Biden's Build Back Better agenda, and "No climate, no deal." There's some of the pictures here. BBB brings jobs to WV. Manchin passed the bill. Don't sink West Virginia. Manchin has been voicing opposition to the package's top-line spending amount. The moderate senator has also called on the party to pause deliberations on the spending bill, and at one point reportedly said Democrats should hold off on discussions for the package until 2022, as the House prepared to hold a vote on the Senate-passed bipartisan infrastructure bill. And see, that's the thing. That's where I get concerned about this. We talked about this last week when he said this. Hold off until 2022. Let's not talk about this until 2022. Well, that's an election year. I'm looking at this as election strategy. They can either get this bill shot down completely, or they can sit here and they can dangle this over the progressive Democrats' head and say, see, don't you want Biden's agenda done? You better get more people out vote. You better make sure that we honk this election, because otherwise you're not going to get this. Come on, it's right there. It's within your reach. Come on. I think that's what he's doing. But time will tell, and we'll see what happens with that. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are in this. So it's been revealed last week that there's going to be talks about the framework for a mileage tax. Now, this is supposed to be to go along with the government cutting the gas tax, but, I mean, when's the last time you saw the government actually cut a tax? Get rid of a tax. The Break the Bell podcast tweets out, the average person drives 13,500 miles, according to the DOT. $1,080 tax just to drive your car that you paid for with income that was taxed. Paid sales tax on, or taxed for licensing fees, and the fuel required to drive it was taxed. They're talking about getting rid of actually one of these, but you've still got the other three. But it was also pointed out by Stacey Loves Eli Manning at the top here, no one will be taxed under this bill. It only provides funds to explore the idea. According to Forbes here, when do you have to start paying a vehicle miles traveled fee? This is only a pilot program for a vehicle miles traveled fee. Therefore, following the completion of a pilot program, the Biden admin may or may not implement a vehicle miles traveled fee. For the pilot program, there will be volunteers from all 50 states, including both passenger and commercial vehicles. The drivers would have their miles tracked with GPS and data apps, for example, that would track their miles driven for a certain time period. And I was talking a bit I tweeted back at Elaine yesterday because she pointed out the fact that if you, they knew that the mileage on her car that she'd owned for or been using for a year had gone up when she went to go re-register it because they got that data from the repair shops, which I don't know how accurate that is, if it's just an independent shop or the dealer. I know that there are certain makes out there that have the ability for there to be a satellite uplink from your computer, your car's ECM, to tell you if something's wrong with the engine, and then go tell the closest dealer to go and order the parts. I know quite a bit about that, actually. I can't tell you why I know quite a bit about that due to contractual obligations, but I do know quite a bit about that. But yes, they're monitoring. They can do it with GPS, with data apps, from all kinds of stuff. Plus that little, that smartphone in your pocket. That doesn't do you any favors either, by the way. But regardless, I mean, this is a pilot program, but if they're going to research it, they're going to do it. And I don't think they're going to cut the gas tax either. I really don't. Some more Blackburn stuff. Let's listen to her again. Talking about spending once again.
Many of the Tennesseans I speak to every day who voted for President Biden wish they had made another choice in the voting booth because, yes, they voted for the president, but they did not vote for this. They did not vote for the Afghanistan withdrawal in the manner we came out. They did not vote to embolden the communist Chinese. They did not vote for open borders. They did not vote for inflation that is skyrocketing. Taxes, $2 trillion of taxes coming their way. No, they did not vote for that. And this is what makes them angry. I hear their anger with every telephone town hall, with every conversation. I hear their frustration. They are angry at the White House officials who use the full force of the United States government to cover up their mistakes and try to make it sound like it is the problem of the people. Because they know they have messed up. And the people have every right to be angry. The things we do in this chamber don't exist in a bubble. They have real-world consequences for real people who have real lives that they are living every day, and they know that they're beginning to live these lives in a more dangerous setting. Crime in the streets, crime on the rise, open borders, unvetted migrants coming to their communities, COVID, measles outbreaks.
See, that's one of the things that Blackburn actually did well with the speech, and it's one of the things that I know, and I will completely admit to the fact that I have done the Washington, D.C. soap opera on both Contemporary and on the Red Ned Show, or formerly Ed's World. I know I'm guilty of that. I will be the first to admit that, but I'm trying to rebrand the show to be more of kitchen table issues, and that's what I'm trying to brand Turns of Pages as too. More kitchen table issues, more stuff that's actually going to affect you in your day-to-day life. Not who is in DC doing what. Like, I glanced over at my Twitter notifications while I was listening to Marsha Blackburn, and then looked at the trending too, and saw that apparently Kristi Noem is having an affair with a former Trump staffer. Who gives a fuck? These people just do nothing but fuck each other all day, every day anyway. It's nothing new. It's part of the DC swamp. It's part of that. That's never going to go away. What we need to focus on is electing people like us out into those positions. People who have to struggle every day, who have to wonder if they're going to eat ramen or pay the electric bill. People like that. Those are the people who need to be in there making policy. Because they know how to build a budget, they know how to spend, they know how to do things officially. But, I mean, I'm trying to rebrand all of this into the stuff that actually affects you, not which staffer is sleeping with which one and which one is doing this or that. I'm trying to stay away from the Washington soap opera as hard as I can. And that's where Blackburn was talking about rising crime in the streets. More unemployment. Unemployment is ticking up right now. They don't want to tell you that because there's a Democrat president, but unemployment is ticking up right now. The unvetted migrants coming to your communities. I'm not as opposed to that because we don't do pre-crime in this country, but still, that's not something that plays well to Soccer Mom America. What's going to happen we don't know who these people are. They don't like white people moving into their neighborhood that they don't know who they are. And that's where Blackburn hits this nail right on the head. It's time to stop worrying about what did Donald Trump do while he was on Twitter while nobody was paying attention. It's time to worry about what is going to affect your bottom line. What is going to affect the food on your table. Because that's the most important part. And I followed that up by immediately saying we're going to go make fun of Greta Thunberg. Cornucopia of idiosyncrasies. Reading from The Blaze. Greta Thunberg ridicules Joe Biden and other global leaders during blah 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 speech. Given that speech I just gave, I should really skip this one, but it's here. And it's funny. I listened to it. Greta Thunberg ridiculed President Biden and other global leaders for their lack of dedication to her political cause during a youth conference on global warming. The climate warming activist made the comments during her speech at the Youth for Climate Forum to Tuesday in Milan, Italy. Thunberg repeated the phrases used by global leaders in a mocking fashion. Let's listen to that.
This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah, blah, blah. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero, blah, blah, blah. Climate neutral. Blah, blah, blah. This is all we hear from our so-called leaders. Words. Words that sound great, but so far has led to no action. Our hopes and dreams drown in their empty words and promises. Of course, we need constructive dialogue, but they've now had 30 years of blah, 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 and where has that led us? But
this is going to be the next person who tries to take over Europe, isn't it? Isn't it? Thunderous applause while we blame all of our problems on everybody else. And I've said this before. I do understand where people want to come in and change some of the government policy over this. I don't agree with it again, but I understand where people want to change some government policy so that there are laws against, the sprocket factory dumping a bunch of toxic waste out into the river, or the oil company putting their fumes into the air. I understand where they want to put laws into that, but the first part, before you get up, before you make the speech, before you write to your congressperson, before you send that email, before you do anything else, before you organize the protest, plant a fucking tree. That's what you need to be doing first, is go plant a tree. Before anything else. Get out there, do a little bit of something yourself. Pick up a piece of litter. Sweep out a parking lot, if there happens to be one. Get all the trash picked up off the side of the highway. Do what Cody's lab did. Go off the side of the highway, sweep up some of the debris and the sand, and see how much platinum you can get out of it from coming out of people's catalytic converters. Because I'm sure that's great for the environment. Go up and do some of the stuff on your own before you start demanding that other people do it for you. Plant a garden. Rip up that suburban lawn. Plant a garden. Grow your own food. I rent, unfortunately, I can't do that, but I still grew my own food. It was in milk jugs, but I grew my own food. I got a nice harvest this year. It was kind of cool. All right, a little bit of commie coof news. We got to keep it moving here because, well, we're almost done, but I actually do need to, get out of here and be to work on time. They give me a little bit of leeway because they know I do the job before this, that I do contemporary before I go to work, so they'll give me 10 minutes leeway here and there. But yeah, my boss is alone today. He's got nobody there with him today. So if they give me the advantage of having the leeway when they really, really need me, I need to make sure I'm there. So we got to get out of here at a decent hour today. North Carolina hospital fires 175 employees who have not gotten vaccinated. Novant Health, a massive hospital system in North Carolina that has made COVID-19 vaccine mandatory for its employees, suspended 375 employees across 15 hospitals and 18 clinics last week for not complying with the mandate. But over a 5-day period, 200 employees agreed to get the vaccine. Megan Rivers, the hospital's director of media and influencer relations, said in a tweet, "More than 99% of the hospital's 35,000 employees are vaccinated," Rivers said. The remaining 175 who were suspended last week have been fired, according to CBS affiliate WWAY. Novant announced that mandatory vaccination policy in July with a deadline of September 15th, WWAY reports. Employees who didn't comply were given an unpaid suspension and were given 5 days to get the vaccine or be terminated, the hospital revealed in a September 21st press release. Those who already received the first dose of the two-dose Moderna or Pfizer now have until October 15th to get their second dose and remain in compliance. "We're thrilled," vast majority of team members gave Novant Health patients and visitors, as well as our team members, better protection regardless of where they are in our health system, she wrote on Twitter. Several entities have made it mandatory for employees or even visitors to be vaccinated. New York healthcare workers were required to receive at least their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine by September 27th. Now that the state is enforcing that mandate, staff shortages are expected at some hospitals. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said in a statement in an emergency declaration, and other options, including calling in healthcare workers from the National Guard, are on the table to address any potential hospital staffing shortages. Federalize the workforce. There you go. So, and, oh my God, we have a staffing shortage. We fired a bunch of people. We don't know why. If you're really in that big of a pandemic, you would need the bodies. And they're already, I mean, you know, we talk about the ICU beds. There are no ICU beds. There are no beds at the hospital because there's so many unvaccinated patients. And as more and more people are pointing out, and I'm sure that they're not allowed to bring their cell phones into there, these hospitals are filled with empty beds. But there have to be a certain number of staff on site to deal with the number of people that are in there. So yes, you've got the beds to put people in, but you don't have the staff for it. So yes, technically they are full because they keep firing people. But that's where it goes from there. From the Washington Post, more than 99% of the system's roughly 35,000 employees have followed the mandatory vaccination program. Novant Health spokeswoman Megan Rivers says, "We stand by our decision to make the vaccine mandatory as we have a responsibility to protect our patients, visitors, and team members, regardless of where they are in our health system." Well, that's good. I don't want to go to your hospital, and I hope that nobody else does. Because our beds are full, even though they're not. But you don't have the staff to take care of the people you have there. Josh Smith tweeted this out, and I've not been able to independently verify this, and I tried both on Google and DuckDuckGo. But apparently, Norway reclassifies COVID-19 no more dangerous than the ordinary flu. COVID-19 is treated in the mass media as a very dangerous disease, and in the face of which mass vaccination and severe restrictions for the whole society are applauded despite few deaths beyond the risk groups. But in Norway, it has now been decided to treat it like any other respiratory diseases such as flu or cold virus, because according to the Norwegian Institute of Public Health, it is no longer more dangerous than these. But apparently the CDC is big mad about this because they come out and put the alert out. COVID-19 in Norway. Level 4, very high level of COVID-19 in Norway. Key information for travelers to Norway. Number 1, avoid travel to Norway. Big mad. All right, here's a little bit of a surprise that nobody ever saw coming here. And as I always say, follow the money. From CNBC, Governor Kathy Hochul's daughter-in-law is top lobbyist at pharma firm that has sought to influence New York lawmakers. From Brian Schwartz. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's daughter-in-law is a top lobbyist at a pharmaceutical firm that has been actively trying to influence state and federal lawmakers. Hochul took over as governor on Tuesday following Cuomo's resignation over a sexual harassment scandal. During her first address as governor, Hochul said her administration would address ethics issues. "Today, I'm directing an overhaul of state government policies on sexual harassment and ethics starting with requiring that all trainings be done live instead of allowing people to click their way through a class, Hochul said in the speech which she delivered soon after the story was first published. Christina Hochul, who is married to the governor's son, William Hochul III, is a director of federal policy at Biogen. The company develops therapies that aim to combat Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, and spinal muscular atrophy. Its corporate headquarters is in Massachusetts. The company has been involved with recent lobbying campaign in New York. State lobbying disclosure reports that between January and June, Biogen paid $20,000 for Harter, Seacrest, and Emory to engage with state lawmakers on multiple bills. The disclosure report shows that lobbyist Biogen hired targeted leaders in the state on potential legislation related to Alzheimer's disease. The report does not list Christina Hochul as a lobbyist working on the campaign, yet if Biogen continues to have business in the state, it could create an ethics hurdle the new governor will have to face as she settles on the job. So, I mean, she's not representing the companies that are lobbying for the holy jab, but she's adjacent to them. The daughter-in-law is a lobbyist. Surprise, surprise. And now has the ear of the governor. Your government at work, folks. From CBS, Harvard Business School moves classes online amid rise in COVID cases. From Megan Cerullo. Harvard Business School says it's reverting to remote learning after beginning the semester with in-person classes, citing a rise in breakthrough COVID-19 cases among its students. Breakthrough cases are rare. They almost never happen. It's only these unvaccinated people who are taking up hospital beds. All first year and some second year MBA students will take classes online beginning this week. Classes will take place remotely at least until October 3rd, the school said in a statement. The universities resumed in-person instruction this fall. Outbreaks of COVID-19 cases have popped up among students across the nation, despite the fact that many colleges have vaccine mandates as well as requirements to wear masks indoors. More than 900 institutions of higher learning had vaccine mandates in place as of September 20th, with such a requirement more prevalent on campus in northeastern and western states, according to the Chronicle of Higher Education. Weird. Weird, you guys. It's really odd. It's almost like this shit doesn't work. Like the vaccine doesn't protect you. Like the mask doesn't protect you. With the support of Harvard University leaders advised by city and state public health officials, we have decided to move all first-year MBA students and some in the second year to remote learning for the week of 9/27 to 10/3. HBX spokesperson Mark Cautela said in a statement with CBS Money Watch on Monday. The move comes after a steady rise in breakthrough infections among the business school students' population. Contact tracers who have worked with positive cases highlight that transmission is not occurring in classrooms or other academic settings on campus, nor is it occurring among individuals who are masked, Cautela said. Now, see, it's not occurring on individuals who are masked, in spite of the fact that we just read up here that the school has a mask requirement. This is major CYA mode. Major CYA mode. All right. Shifting gears off the pinko fucking pox, reading from the Dissociated Press. Florida sues Biden admin over immigration policy, from Brendan Farrington. Florida filed a suit against President Biden's admin on Tuesday, claiming his immigration policy is illegal. And the Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed an order barring state agencies from assisting with the relocation of undocumented immigrants arriving in the state. DeSantis' order authorized the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Florida Highway Patrol to detain any aircraft, bus, or other vehicle within the state of Florida reasonably believed to be transporting illegal aliens to Florida from the southwest border. If allowed by federal and state law, the caveat that the law must be followed likely prevents them from seizing federal aircraft. He also ordered the agencies to gather information on the identities of any immigrants arriving illegally in Florida from the Mexico border and told state agencies not to spend any money assisting those immigrants unless required by law. Democratic State Rep. Anna Escamani criticized DeSantis, saying he's using the immigration issue to score political points. Probably true, with his conservative base instead of focusing on other issues facing the state. I would go 50-50 on that. I'm not going to lie. I would say that's about a 50-50. Yeah, he is scoring political points with the people in his state. Yeah, that's true. And the conservative base who wants to say, no more Mexicans coming into our state here. Let's get them up out of here so we can, they're done took our jobs. There's that element to what DeSantis is doing. But there is the other aspect of the fact that they are specifically relocating some of these people into some of these states. Whether it be resources, whether it be any number of things. There are states like this that are being targeted for this. Wisconsin is a big one for immigrant relocation. I've known that for a long time. I've met a lot of them. I've worked with a lot of them. People are going to come on and say, no, there's no illegal immigrants in Wisconsin. Bull fucking shit. I've worked in farming and restaurants before I got into the automotive industry. I know what they do. I've met these people. But that's what we see coming up out of Florida. And the last one we do before Thing I Like and Thing That I Hate. From Reuters, China's power crunch dwarfs Evergrande's troubles in investors' eyes. From Samuel Shen and Alun Jan. China's power supply crunch that has shut factories across the country may pose a bigger threat to the economy than the debt crisis at Evergrande Group, prompting investors to shun industries vulnerable to power shortages such as steelmaking and construction. China is facing a power squeeze from a shortage of coal supplies, tougher emission standards, and the strong demand from manufacturers and industry that have triggered widespread curbs on usage. Factories have stopped operations due to power shortages and government mandates to meet energy and carbon reduction goals. Goldman Sachs and Nomura have revised down projections for the Chinese economic growth this year. As a result, shares in Chinese chemical producers, car makers, and shipping companies have tumbled while renewable energy stocks have soared. Investors believe the potential scale of the problems could dwarf any fallout from liquidity troubles at property developer Evergrande, with liabilities of $305 billion that roiled property stocks and bonds this month. So, on top of everything else, the country where we get all of our cheap Walmart crap from, is having trouble keeping up with demand, and they're shuttering their factories. This is going to get interesting, folks. The next couple years are going to get interesting. That's all that I have to say on that. And with that, we're done with the news, and the last thing we do on a Tuesday, or a Wednesday, Jesus Christ. And I slept last night too. I don't know why I'm so out of it today. It is Wednesday, and we do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate on Wednesday. We're going to do two things I like. We're going to be extra positive today. And this also gives me a chance to give a shout out to this, because I am required contractually by the description to give a shout out if I use the music for the stream. So the first thing I will do is I will bring over, it is the Video Game Study Lounge is the music that you're hearing in the background today. Yoshi on a Half Shell is the song that's playing currently. But this is from the Game Chops YouTube channel. This is, by the way, fully acceptable as far as it goes on the stream. I did check that when I did this last week. This is I do enjoy this playlist, and I usually leave it on at work too, because it's calming, it's soothing, it's nice, and it's video games. Who doesn't love video games? I love video games, so it just works for me. There's the live chat in there. I don't play in the live chat because it's usually 14-year-old kids who are remote learning who are supposed to be paying attention to school but are listening to the music instead. But regardless, I mean, they're usually 205. There are usually like 2,000-3,000 people watching this at once. But yeah, this is a good one. There's another one, Radio Cutman, but I don't know if that's going to be one. I'll check in to see if Radio Cutman I can use as well for the background music. Just because, I mean, we listen to the same playlist every day. It's either the lo-fi or the synthwave, but I've tried to branch out of that because we do hear the same songs every single day. So I'm trying to get more stuff like this where we can do that's acceptable for copyright. That won't get us shut down on YouTube. Well, it'll just give us a slap, but still, that won't get us shut down like that. So I'm always looking for more stuff like this, especially in that kind of lo-fi synthwave thing, because it makes good background noise. It makes a good background track for this. So I like this. I recommend you guys go check that out. I will put the link in the description for the current stream for it, but they usually run them for like 4 or 5 months at a time. Let's do that quick. There you go. There is that. And another thing that I like, which, I mean, the thing that I like segment has a lot of times become, what am I watching on streaming services? I have been halfway through the series before, and I've seen the movie, but I'm starting at the movie and going through the series again. I picked back up on the Clone Wars last night. Star Wars The Clone Wars. Because I've never finished the series. And then, now I'm actually powering through stuff. I finished Mr. Robot, which I started years ago and never finished. I have to go back and finish Riverdale because the 4th season came out and I haven't seen that. But I'm actually going through and cleaning up stuff that I've started watching and then just never finished. The Mandalorian, I finished that one up. So the next one, of course, that I've started and never finished is going to be the Clone Wars. From what I've seen through half of the series, I very much enjoyed, and it's enjoyable enough that I can go back and start it again and not even question it. It's engaging. It brings us a little bit more lore. Even though it's transmitted on Disney Plus, it's pre-Disney, so there's actual lore to it. It's not tainted the way that Rise of Skywalker is tainted. But I mean, it's an enjoyable series. It was made for kids, so it's not as gritty as some of the other things for there, but it's still. I mean, you can enjoy it as an adult. It's not like this is something where you're watching the Cartoon Network version of Star Wars. Yeah, you are. But there's still adult themes to this. There's still a lot of moral complications to it. This is actually a really good series. And I do hope that the ending holds up to what the first 2 seasons were. Let's watch a little bit of the trailer. But first, we got to go back and mute the music.
They've been waiting to see you. Loyalty means everything to the clones. Surely, you have felt it. The dark side has never been stronger. Every choice you have made has led you to this moment.
So that was the final trailer for the final TV spot off of this, which means that I do need to probably go back and check in on some of my outside lore, because I was the understanding that Darth Maul was cut in half by Qui-Gon Jinn at the beginning of Phantom Menace. So I don't know why Darth Maul is alive, but I guess I will pick that up throughout the series and figure that out. But that's what we got from that. So if you haven't seen the Clone Wars, even halfway through, I recommend it. It's been good to me so far. I'm very eager to see the rest of it and see where the rest of this goes. Now for a thing that I hate, which involves more video. And it's Libs of TikTok. Libs of TikTok says, "This is sad, poor kid." Let's drop the music again and let's have a listen to what they have to say.
When our child Zoomer was born in 2016, my partner Brent and I decided to raise them without assigning a gender.
Your boyfriend/husband, Brent, not your partner. I already hate this.
We didn't disclose their reproductive anatomy to people who didn't need to know. We used the gender-neutral pronouns they, them, their until Zoomer could tell us what pronouns fit best, and we taught Zoomer about bodies, gender, identity, and expression in an expansive and inclusive way. We wanted to hold space for the possibility that Zoomer could be intersex, transgender, or non-binary, and we were committed to protecting them from experiencing sexism in early childhood.
Intersex doesn't mean what you think it means, and if your kid was intersex, you'd know it as soon as you changed his or her diaper.
Zoomer wore all the clothes, played with all the toys, and got to experience a childhood free of gender stereotypes. Around Zoomer's 4th birthday, he told us that he's a boy and that he loves he/him pronouns. Zoomer knows who he is and understands that gender is not binary and that his body doesn't define his destiny. We call this gender creative parenting, and there's resources and an amazing community waiting for you if you want to learn more.
My biggest question here is he actually a boy? That's the first question I have. And I mean, did biology do what it's supposed to do? I don't know. But, guys, this is child abuse. And I've always, I hate the fact that your pee parts are politicized. I really do. That's been the biggest thing to me from the beginning. When we started talking about gender-neutral bathrooms back in 2015 under Obama, when we started having that conversation back then about who can go in whose bathroom, I knew that this shit was going to come. I don't care how you identify. I really don't. I don't care if you got a wiener and you call yourself a chick. One of my favorite people in the world is Rachel Nix, who was a boy transitioned into a girl. But the bathrooms thing, especially with teaching the kid how to do whatever the fuck that it is that he does. And I'm going to use the he pronouns because that's really all I know about it at this point, is that he identifies himself as a he, even though it looks like he's fucking 4. It's not necessarily, especially at that age, it's not about, when you say boy or girl, it's not, how will I identify, how will I feel as we go with this? It's about, how do I go pee? Do I stand up or sit down? And that's where it boils down to at this point. You know, when you get older and you get into your kinks, you'll figure out which pieces fit where. You'll have the conversation with mom and dad, but for the most part, when you're that age, it's how do you pee? Do we get the right diapers for how this person pees? How this kid pees? Do we get the right toilet training apparatus for how this person's going to pee? That's legitimately what it boils down to at that age. Do I go into the bathroom that's got the urinal or the sit-down toilets? That's it. That's all. Dude, this generation's gonna be fucked, yo. I'm telling you, it's gonna be fucked beyond reason. You think we were bad? This next generation coming up is fucked. Especially Gen Alpha that's being raised by people my age. Good luck. Let's get the fuck out of here. Now that my spirit is broken and my soul is blackened, let's get out of here for the day. Make sure the intro music is going to blast your fucking ears out like it usually does. Or the outro. Alright, my soul is blackened. And now I have to go out and face the world for the rest of the day too. Isn't that fun? Alright, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat today. It was a great time, it was a great show. You guys rock. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, more news, and more stuff that probably blackens my soul. And we'll see you then. We'll watch the degradation of my soul in real time once again. Until then, we'll catch you guys next time. And go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com and the fundraiser as well. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.